Hey everybody, we're the East Tennessee group of United Real Estate again. We're here coming at you with another episode. And today I thought it'd be cool to talk about the lakes here in surrounding counties of Knoxville. We get a lot of clients that call us all the time and ask us about, hey, tell me about the lakes. We want lake property. We want lakefront. Do your lakes drop? Is it dockable? So all those things. And so we thought we'd do an episode regarding lakes. And Chevy, we talked earlier prior to the podcast. You're getting a lot of clients asking about these too. And about the water levels, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing about our area is that a lot of people don't understand is we have so much water, but it's all river systems, and it's, skinny water that comes from a tailwater that then open up into these big lakes, and then they go into another dam, and then they turn into another lake. So, with that, TVA regulates the water, right? And so the dams, a lot of the generation has to do with electricity. Mm-hmm. So like they're going to generate a little bit more in the summertime when everyone's cranking those ACs, than they do in maybe the spring or the fall when it's real nice weather. But something that a lot of people don't understand is the water will drop to winter pool usually like mid-October. And the reason they do that is because they get ready for the wintertime flooding season. And it sounds kind of crazy because we really, if you just think about it, it doesn't seem like we get that much more rain in the wintertime. But, some scientists that's way smarter than me did their science, and they decided that that's when they're going to drop it. So they do. And you do also have to take into account snow melt.
Right. Yeah.
We don't think about that a lot, but something to consider is that, for instance, Fort Loudon Lake, the Little River, which runs, I'm sure most folks have been to Cades Cove. It runs from Cades Cove, that whole area,
right,
all the way down to Fort Loudon.
Right.
So, really high elevations that can get a lot of snow that melts, gets into the creeks run into the bigger streams that run into the river. So in the wintertime, the water, and this is on every, body of water we have around here, it's going to drop anywhere from 5 to 10 feet, just depending. And then summertime, I think the water just came up maybe 2 weeks ago. So usually around mid-April, that water comes back up.
So I know that Douglas Lake is not, their goal is to have it at full capacity by Memorial Day. So, at the moment, Douglas Lake is definitely not all the way up.
It's still a winter pool.
Still, yes. And that lake gets dropped more than 5 to 10 foot. And I don't know why that one specifically. And it may be because of all the coves, and I don't understand it. But I do know that particular lake is really only full from right around just before Memorial Day to maybe Labor Day. Mm-hmm. That's the full season for that lake.
So I know Douglas and both Norris are quite a bit deeper than Fort Loudon and Watts Bar. Okay. So Fort Loudon, the deepest part is going to be 75 feet, and the same for Watts Bar, Tellico, and Melton Hill. But then, Norris, there's places that are 200 feet deep. Okay. And then Douglas, the same. So theirs drop a little bit more because of that, just because of how deep they are. Sense. And also, I think that something else that could contribute to that is that, those lakes are also higher elevation and they're closer to other mountains. So for instance, Douglas is a lot closer to the Smoky Mountains than Fort Loudon.
Right.
So it probably gets more runoff, it gets more snow melt and things
possibly
like that.
From the Blue Ridge Mountains as well. I don't know if it would come from, Okay. Yeah.
The Cherokee's man-made. Is that?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
I think there's something about Cherokee where you cannot do major water sports on it. All the other lakes, yes, but Cherokee, because of the depth and how small it is. And I only know that from...
Cherokee's not that small, though.
I didn't think so, but...
It's several hundred acres or more, I would imagine.
Calling on...
I could be wrong. I don't know a lot about Cherokee, to be honest with you.
It's one of the less popular ones, but it's close to Norris, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. So Cherokee and Douglas Lake both run into Fort Loudon.
Right.
So Cherokee goes into the Holston River, Douglas goes into the French Broad, and both of them meet at the forks of the river, and that's where Fort Loudon Lake begins. And then Fort Loudon is definitely the most popular that we have because it runs through the two biggest counties in East Tennessee, which would be Knox and Blount County.
Yeah.
So Fort Loudon, I mean, it's going to drop, like I said, 5 to 10 feet. A lot of people ask me this. They're like, well, what do you guys do in the winter? You can still use the lakes. There's still plenty deep enough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can even still get property that has, year-round water that's usable. The only thing is you're going to have to get a lift on your dock, and you're going to have to find a property that is sitting right on the channel where, that drop doesn't affect it as much. If you've got 20 feet under your dock and they drop at 10, well, you've still got 10 feet. You're fine, but you do have to have a lift.
Right. Yes. Because I know, so Douglas is the lake that I'm most familiar with. And Douglas has a lot of kind of fingers and little coves. And I know that those often do not have any water, not in the summer. But yes, on Main Channel, there's still water, obviously, in Main Channel. And I see people have floating docks, and they kind of drop them and extend the floating dock out with the water level. And then as the water level rises and the dock kind of comes up, then they reel it back in, sort of thing. So I'm thinking that's kind of what you mean, that people can still use that dock then to get onto the water. I mean, I see people fishing out there all year round,
Yeah, I use the water year round.
Okay.
In the coldest of cold and the hottest of hot. I'm always out there, and there's a ton of other people. There's also a lot of boat manufacturers who use it all the time. Like if you go on Teleco, there's Mastercraft, there's Sea Ray, there's the Yamaha place. I don't know exactly what it is, but they sell a bunch of Yamaha. They do commercials and stuff out there all the time. It's pretty neat.
Oh, cool.
But all winter long, they're running those boats up and down, testing them out, making sure everything goes. So the water is certainly usable even in the winter time.
Right. Absolutely. So, Chevy, you like to fish. So, what do you fish for? What do you not as a non-fish person at all.
Well, I will say this. That could be an entire podcast, and I'm sure it is an entire podcast. So in East Tennessee, we have probably one of the best fisheries in the world, I would imagine. There's just every opportunity you could want. I mean, the only freshwater fish that I can think of that we don't have would be a northern pike. They're not a super popular fish anyways, but like panfish, crappie, that's a super popular one. People love to eat them. Bass fishing, the Bassmaster Classic comes here every year, which is a huge deal. I mean, that's, the best of the best. Catfishing, that's become really popular. We have catfish. Our state record is 130 pounds, I believe, blue cat.
I've heard that some of the catfish in Fort Loudon are as big as a Volkswagen Beetle.
Oh my word!
Well, listen, I have to tell you that is a myth.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
I know.
There's gotta be.
I would not be swimming in that.
I hate being that guy, but no, they're not. The state record is 130 pounds, which is still huge, though. I mean, that's
as big as me.
Exactly.
Right. Yes. Wow. Okay. That is. Yeah. Wow.
Huge
humongous
fish right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. That's why we have so many great catfish restaurants, right?
That's it. Yeah. Right.
Huck Finn's catfish down
straight out of Fort Loudon. Just
kidding.
Some of those huge fishing shows come here, so I think that's a telltale sign that we've got great lakes.
Yeah, we do. And if anyone wants any more information, there's a ton of great YouTube channels that you can go to. Lots of people do like instructional stuff. There's, Top Knox Fishing, which is one of my buddies, Mark. TVA does a lot of stuff. There's kayak catfishing. He's this guy that he fishes out of a kayak and catches giant catfish. I mean, he's always like holding this huge catfish up in this little bitty boat. There's trout guys, because we've got a lot of trout fishing here too.
Yes.
Anything you wanted, there's a ton of opportunities, which is super cool.
Okay, cool.
Can you help us understand, Chevy, about TVA's hand in the lakes and whether certain areas are dockable or whether they're not? It has to do with TVA owning the land.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know everything about it, but I do know, TVA manages everything, right? And so they run their studies and things like that, and they're the ones who create all this, I guess they create all this data to figure out, what they're going to do, as far as dropping the water,
right,
and dates and things like that. As far as if it's like dockable or not, I don't know really what makes that happen or not.
So I can tell you the little bit that I know about that, Chewy, and that is, and again, this is pertaining to Douglas Lake because that's kind of my area.
It's managed by the same people though, so I would imagine it's just going to be the.
So Douglas Lake, if you own lake property, most of the time you will own property in the lake as well. So you could own 5 acres, but 3 of it may be underwater.
That's how it was when I lived in Vaughan and I was on Fort Loudon.
Right. So basically, when you own it, you can extend a dock out because it's your land. Mm-hmm. So underneath the water, you actually own that land. So my understanding is if you own area out into the water, then you can dock in it, is my understanding. Also, whatever land you own that's under the water, and obviously it'll only be under the water some of the year, the rest of the year, you'll have more land available. But you can actually take out dirt on your property. So if you own land that gets filled with water, you can actually remove dirt out of it to increase the depth of the water at your property. What you cannot do is put any soil or dirt in. So you cannot fill into the lake, but if you own the land under the water, you can remove dirt from the lake to increase your dock, to increase the depth at your dock.
Yeah, but now I will say that's more of a rare situation. More often than not, you own up to the bank, but sometimes, like you were saying, when TVA will own like a strip or something right across it. And the reason they do that, those are the properties where you would have to get your permit to build your dock and everything. The reason they do that is because they want to make the entire lake accessible to the public. So there are 1,000 videos all over YouTube of like people getting mad at fishermen for fishing their boat docks. And there's not a thing you can do about it because you don't own the water below your dock.
Right, exactly. Yes, you can own the land underneath, but the water, you do not. Water is everybody's to share. Yes, you're exactly right. Yes. And someone could even walk around your boat dock. I mean, like if it were shallow enough, they could do that. And in most cases, that's legal unless you own the land, and in which case it wouldn't be. I haven't heard of a lot of places like that, but I do know what you're talking about. And I think that Townsend, there's the little river that runs through there. I believe that there's parts of Townsend that are like that too, and I don't know how they get away with it because there's tubers going down there all the time, but technically you're not supposed to get out of your tube and walk. Correct. You know what I mean? There are signs when we go tubing down there. Absolutely. There will be, I love to see it. There's people that will actually, because they're, either staying in an overnight property or, they have a home actually on the river. And where it's shallow, people come out and they put their deck chairs actually in the water.
Yeah.
And will fish like literally from inside the water. But there are signs as you go down the river that you cannot get out of the tube, that you can't. And some property owners state that, that it's private property and people cannot, get onto their dock or board it. There's, in fact, in the little river down there, there's one place where you can get out the tube, and you can actually climb up the side of a rock and jump down. The water's deep enough. It's actually kind of a place to do that. But yes, they do state very clearly that you need to stay in your tube. You are allowed to use the water, but the land is not public access.
Yeah. Wow. And now, Karen, you just bought some jet skis.
Ooh, yes, I did.
What's your favorite thing to do with your jet skis?
Okay, so we love to go. So 2 places. First of all, we love to go out on Douglas because I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. And the jet skis that we have will pull tubes. So we pull the kids on the tubes on Douglas Lake. Absolutely, yes, absolutely wonderful. I have a great time doing that. And I love it because we're able to, so what we often do is there's actually little islands on Douglas Lake that are public. Mm-hmm. So if you get there early enough, you can actually go and kind of put your blanket out and hang a hammock up or whatever and kind of make that your little island, and then we use that as kind of base camp sort of thing. And then we have some of us have paddle boards and the jet skis go in and out from there, so that's a lot of fun. And those places are often in little coves, so it's out of the traffic of, the super fast speedboats and all that kind of thing. It's a little bit calmer. So the kids can swim. All the grown-ups, I swim in the lake too. So, we get to do that. And then the jet skis, we take them out. Sometimes in the cove, if we're pulling the kids, we tend to stay out of the way a little bit. Though I will say Douglas normally is not crazy busy with like motorboat traffic. Mm-hmm. I've never had a problem there where I felt like it was just anybody was being silly or kind of not being aware of everybody else around them. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's the good thing about like Douglas and Norris, because they're a little bit further out there. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people that use it, but it's not, like Fort Loudon. I've had several times when I've like been really worried about things, because people are drinking and it can be unsafe. So like definitely if you're on one of the busier, bodies of water, you certainly need to, be aware of what's going on. But talking about the public land, so that's something that's super cool on all of our waterways is that generally there's a lot of public land, which is great because it's land that we all own, that we can all use. So a lot of it you can hunt, a lot of it you can camp on. Yes. And my friends and I, we every year we plan a camping trip. 2 years ago we did it on Tellico, but last year we did it on Norris Lake, and it was wonderful. We got one of the islands like you were talking about. We put out a bunch of jugs. We did some jugging for catfish. So basically like you put a line attached to a jug and you throw it out. Now if you do it on Norris, you have to put your TWRA number on there, your address and your phone number, so you don't just trash the place up. So you bait your hook and you throw it in a little creek or whatever, and then you drive off. We'd go to camp, eat lunch, and then we'd go back out and get them. And it was so much fun because like you'll be like coming up to this jug and it just starts like bobbing around. And so like so we caught a bunch of catfish. We had a fish fry. We had a fire. I mean, it was just a really awesome day.
Sounds like Naked and Afraid, Chevy.
And we were not naked and we were not afraid. Okay, I want that on the record.
But that's neat. So you would say Fort Loudon's the busiest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then Watts Bar is probably second.
Watts Bar or Tellico?
Yeah, busy.
Tellico has become incredibly popular more recently because it's a little bit cleaner. The water stays a little bit cooler because it's closer to the mountains. Tellico Village and Rarity Bay have just exploded. That whole area. There's some really good restaurants. My wife and I, we love to go to Sequoia Marina. And then there's a lot of other marinas and stuff like that down there too.
Gotcha. You have a boat, right?
Yeah. A little fishing boat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to be a lake person, but I just can't do it.
So you can go to the restaurants on the lake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So tell us about those restaurants on the lakes.
Well, you can drive to Lakeside Tavern, which is in Concord, and it's a beautiful place. I mean, it sits up on a hill, so you're looking down on the water, and they've got their big windows, so it's a real pretty view, and their food is phenomenal.
I think
really
almost
good.
anywhere you can go, like you guys were talking about in the last episode, there's Calhoun's and Oak Ridge on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
Fort Loudon, they have one, right?
Fort Loudon has a bunch. So there's Windy City, which is in Friendsville. There's Lakeside, which is in Concord. There's Choteau, which is kind of North Shorey area, I guess.
Yeah. There's the one right there on Volunteer Landing,
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna
Right on
say.
the Tennessee River, right there.
And during football
I think that's the
games-
Calhouns.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is
Oh,
it?
and
Okay.
that's a great point. During the football games, there's the Vol Navy, which are y'all familiar with that?
No.
Yeah.
So the Vol Navy is so cool. It's so the stadium, Neyland, is right on the Tennessee River, right? So this is actually like one of the biggest traditions in sports. And so everyone will pull up their boats right on that section of the Tennessee River, and they'll all tie up for the ball games. And so you've got 105,000 people inside, and then you've got all these boats outside.
They do that when we set off fireworks and everything too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a giant, a huge deal. Like they even have their own flag, the Vol Navy. But it's cool. I mean, I've been out there several times where they're like going up there, coming back, and I mean, it's just lines of like big, huge cabin cruisers and yachts. Yeah.
It's always on TV because it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
Wow.
It is,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I love that we're known for the lakes. We get calls
Yeah.
probably
Yes.
4 or 5 a week
At
Regular.
least, yeah.
Regular
asking about
calls.
the mountains and the lakes here.
Yes. I have a lot of calls that actually ask me for both of those things.
Yeah.
I want to be on the lake, but I want to see the mountains. And that's
Douglas
not
would be perfect for that.
Yes.
Because you have both there.
exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you can't see the mountains from your lakefront home, you get out on the water and it is amazing. I mean, if you are on Douglas Lake, the view of the Great Smoky Mountains is absolutely
It's gorgeous.
incredible.
Yes.
I
Absolutely
will say
incredible.
Douglas and Norris are the most beautiful bodies of water
Yeah.
by far.
Yeah.
Douglas. I need to get. I bet you I've been out there and
You
just
must
not
have
realize it's Douglas.
You must have been out
Yeah.
there. You must have. So Douglas, the town, so it's bordered by, well, a couple places, but Dandridge.
in Jeff City.
Yeah, well, Jeff City's not
Cherokee.
quite. Yeah,
Okay.
Jeff City's not Douglas. It's Dandridge, and then I guess it goes out towards
White Pine.
White Pine. Yeah, White Pine, and then Sevierville on the other side of it is
Yeah.
is pretty much the larger areas. Yeah,
That's so pretty.
Bainbury. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
yeah, so you've probably been out there. I mean, it's a very large body of water because not only, like I say, it's not only just the main channel, but there are so many little coves and, tiny little nooks and crannies of that. Like, I mean, I like to stay on main channel and 1 or 2 coves when we're on our jet ski because I don't want to get lost. I don't want to land up, keep going down somewhere
Listen,
and not.
let me give you a pro tip. There is an app on your phone that's free. It's called Navionics.
Okay.
And you can download it for free, and it will pull up every body of water around us. And it'll even have contour lines so you can see how deep or shallow it is. You do have to keep in mind that it doesn't, which you're not going to be out there when it's winter pool anyways, most likely.
Probably not. No.
Right. But if you are, keep in mind that it doesn't account for winter pool. So if it's down 10 feet and the thing says that, that it's 20 feet, then it's not 20 feet, it's 10 feet.
Right. Okay. Yes.
But it's such a wonderful app. And it even, it follows you around like a little GPS. So it shows where you are.
Okay.
And you can make pins. So you could pin where the boat dock was, like when you put in.
Yeah.
And then you can go explore whatever you want and just pull up your thing and you can go back.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
what I need.
It's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
such a good tool. Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea. And
Yeah.
my daughter is actually taking her boating license because she just turned 13. So you have to have one in the state of Tennessee. You can drive your own personal watercraft, so she can drive the jet ski at the age of 13 if you have taken your boater's license. So I think that's something that I will make sure she has, because if she's going off on her own, then yes, knowing how to find a way back would be a good thing. That's for sure.
It will be.
Scuba certified, right? Both
Yes.
Children? That's
yes,
awesome.
they
That's
are.
crazy.
Yeah. We love the water. We absolutely love the water.
You should buy a big pontoon boat.
I would love to. I would love. So every summer, we rent, and it's just a small group of friends. We normally rent a couple of pontoon boats, and we go out on Douglas for the whole day, and we take a huge big. It's like a big foam mattress, and it's not a mattress, but it's just a floating dock kind of thing. And that gets put out, and
you
the
can
kids
walk
get-
on those things. They're so stable.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we swim, we have that out. We pull the kids on tubes and wakeboards on the pond. But those of us who don't like to be in the water, the pontoon boats are wonderful because there is so much room. We get the larger ones, and you can stretch out. And
tell us how you go, because you can rent boats on any body of water through a marina. So walk us through kind of that process, like whenever you go to get a boat, just so people know.
So now you're going to ask me what it's called, and I don't know what it's called. I think it's just Douglas Lake Marina.
Yeah, probably. And it doesn't even matter the name, because you can call any marina, and if they don't have any, they'll at least direct you to it.
And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's literally as simple as call them, tell them what you want, tell them how many people you've got, and that's it. You get there, there'll be a safety video, obviously, or something like that to watch. And you're out on the water. It is literally
big acid up and everything, right?
Everything. It is ready to go, and they have a whole selection of, the toys if you want to. They have like those like long hot dog things. We love those because we get to throw the kids off on them. So, but they have like a whole selection if you want to. Get some of those. You can pick some of those and add them along. We normally take our paddle boards as well. Because we actually have inflatable paddle boards. So we take them rolled up, and then when we want to get in, we actually just pump them up and put them in the water so they don't take up too much space, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really, really easy. And actually where we go at Douglas Lake Marina, they have a little restaurant right there. You can sit out on their patio. It's really nice. They have a little ice cream stand. So you can, get ice cream on your way back in,
Such
kind
a
of
cool
thing.
day.
It really is. But I will tell you this: they get booked up. So I have called before for Memorial Day, and I want to say I called like a month in advance, and they pretty much laughed at me and said.
Well, Memorial Day is like the biggest lake day
right,
of
exactly.
the year.
Did you call?
Yes.
But
this year we're taking our jet skis.
There you go. But I think that's such a cool thing for someone moving to the area that maybe is not used to the water, that wants to dabble like you, Sheree. That would be great for you guys to go see if, try it out a couple times and see if maybe, it would be worth it for you to buy a boat. And if so, you can buy one. And if not, you can just keep renting them.
And the pontoon boats are great.
Yeah.
So we've also rented like a pontoon boat and I call them speedboats, but just, like a regular, I guess it's a speedboat. So we've rented both. But the pontoon boats are just really nice for the people that don't want to be in the water because they're a little bit more stable. They just
get
don't.
in and out of.
Yes, exactly.
It's a good do it all though. You can
Yeah.
you can put a grill on there. You can have all your coolers and plenty of room.
Yeah. It's covered. You can get cover so you can get under the shade.
Yeah.
Because one thing during the summer, it gets hot out there on the water. You might not want to jump in the lake, but you might be jumping in to cool
Listen,
down.
if
'cause
you
it
don't
gets
have a bimini top on your boat, I won't be on it.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I bought whenever we got our, and mine just have like a little fishing boat, but we put a top on it because
yeah.
it does get so dang hot.
Yes, it does. That's for sure. Yeah, it gets hot on the water, but there's definitely a lot of interest for people coming to this area on the lakes. And you know, there's not a lot of lake property available. I'm sure you guys can agree with that. It's just not there. There is some still available. A lot of it is on the bluffs. You know, there's not a lot that, where I have clients who call and say, oh, I want to be able to walk into the water.
Yeah.
And probably I think about 5 years ago, I could do that. I could find that. We could go. We could look at it. It'd probably been on the market for a little while, and we could buy it. But now, it just doesn't. It's just not available anymore.
I would say expectations too for finding a lake property. I mean, if you're not at least 600 or above, it's just probably not going to happen.
Right.
And people call me all the time and they're like, well, I saw this property on Zillow for 300. And it's like, yeah, that's a shed. Someone bought a shed at Home Depot and they're selling it for 300,000.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yes.
just expectations, if you want a lake house, a good lake house, you're going to spend a lot of money.
Yes. Yes.
And by the time this comes out, it's probably going to have gone up another 50,000. So,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'd like to say too is as far as land goes, because I get a lot of calls for land
on the lakes.
Yeah, you'll find these properties that are like $50,000, $60,000, but what always ends up being the situation is that the building restrictions are so tight that you really have to build $1 million home to be able to fit into that. So just if you're looking on Zillow and you see a piece of land that's $60,000 and you're like, man, that is a deal, I'm going to buy that. Make sure you check the restrictions because you may not be able to afford to do anything with it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Or if it's unrestricted, it's probably you have to have like 2,000 steps to get up to your.
Yes.
You got to have a zip line to get to the water. Don't know how you're getting back, but we can get you in there.
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be funny. There used to be a property on Fort Loudon. I don't know if it's still there or not, but they had like almost like a little roller coaster that went down.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You build a 4-wheeling ramp.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to think, I guess, really that's about it with the lakes. Just keep in mind that they drop, everything's dammed up. The closer you are to the dams, the more skinny the water will be. For the most part, though, all the water is very usable. It's big enough to, if you want to wakeboard, you can do it. If you want to tube, whatever it is you want to do, there's just, there's every opportunity in the world.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful.
It is beautiful everywhere. There's no better place.
Well, thanks for joining us with another episode regarding lakes. We're the East Tennessee group of United Real Estate, close to everything but miles from ordinary.